Marcus Reed stood outside Tanya Bellamy's apartment with flowers in one hand and her mother standing beside him like a witness. That was how Tanya knew it was not an apology. It was a performance. Denise Bellamy had called 3 times that morning. Tanya had not answered. She had read the messages, though.
Baby, please call me. Marcus is worried. Don't let one bad dinner ruin your future. You need to talk this through like adults.
Now, Denise was at Tanya's door with Marcus, her church purse tucked under her arm, her face arranged into the worried softness mothers used when they thought fear was wisdom. Tanya stood on the other side of the door in the yellow dress Marcus once said was not forgiving. The dress was bright, soft, simple. It made her feel visible. That was why her hands were shaking. Marcus smiled the moment she opened the door. Not because he was happy to see her, because he saw the dress.
His eyes moved over it, quick and sharp, before returning to her face.
"Well," he said, "you're making choices today." Denise gave Tanya a look. "Baby, can we come in?" Tanya did not move. For most of her life, the word baby from her mother had softened her. It had made her step aside, open doors, make space, surrender before anyone had to ask twice. But this morning, Aunt Barbara's voice sat quietly inside her. "You don't have to stop being scared tonight. You just have to stop letting fear make every decision." Tanya kept one hand on the door. "I'm not ready to have company." Marcus's smile tightened. "Company?" he repeated. "That's what I am now?" Denise sighed. "Tanya." The old shame rose immediately. Daughter shame, woman shame, age shame, the shame of making everyone uncomfortable because she wanted one boundary. Marcus lifted the flowers. "I came to fix this." Tanya looked at the bouquet. Red roses, grocery store plastic still around the stems, a bright orange clearance sticker half peeled from the corner. He had not even removed the proof of how little thought he had given them. Before, she would have taken them anyway. She would have thanked him. She would have turned cheap flowers into evidence that he cared, because she needed evidence more than she needed truth. Today, she saw the flowers and felt tired. "You didn't come to fix this," she said quietly. "You came to end the consequences." Denise inhaled. Marcus's face changed. Only for a second. Then the charm returned, colder than before. "See, Denise? This is what I'm dealing with now." She's talking like Barbara. There it was. The oldest weapon. The family warning. The name they had used to scare Tanya back into place. But this time, Tanya did not flinch the same way. The fear came. But another feeling came with it. Recognition. Tanya looked at Marcus, then at her mother. "I'm not letting you use her name like that anymore." Marcus gave a soft laugh. "This is ridiculous." "No," Tanya said. "What's ridiculous is that everybody keeps calling disrespect a joke because the target learned to smile." Denise's eyes filled with discomfort. "Tanya, we are not doing this in the hallway." "You're right," Tanya said. "We're not." She stepped back just enough to reach the lock. Marcus stared at her. "Are you closing the door on us?" Tanya's voice trembled, but it held. "I'm closing the door on this conversation." Then she did. Gently. No slam, no shouting, no scene. Just a door closing. On the other side, Marcus said her name once. Low, warning. Denise whispered something Tanya could not hear. Then footsteps moved away. Tanya stood there with her palm against the door, breathing like she had run up 10 flights of stairs. She had not won. She had not healed. She had not stopped loving the idea of being chosen. But she had protected one morning. And for Tanya Bellamy, one protected morning was the beginning of a new life. If Tanya's story is helping you recognize a pattern you were taught to excuse, stay with us. Subscribe to Velvet Justice Chronicles and look in the description or pinned comment for the free 5-minute self-talk reset. Sometimes the first boundary is the first sentence you finally believe. At work the next day, Tanya told Maya everything. Not all at once. The story came out in pieces between phone calls, billing codes, patient forms, and the ordinary rhythm of a Tuesday morning. Marcus at the door, the flowers, her mother beside him, the yellow dress, the way he said Barbara's name as if it still belonged to him.
Maya listened without interrupting. That was one of her gifts. She knew the difference between silence that abandoned and silence that made room. When Tanya finished, Maya turned her chair fully toward her. Did he come inside? No. Did you feel afraid he might force his way in? Tanya hesitated. Marcus had never pushed into her apartment. He had never grabbed the door. He had never threatened to hurt her. But fear did not always wait for proof. I don't know, she said. I was afraid he would make me feel crazy enough to let him in. Maya nodded. That counts. Tanya looked up. What does? Knowing what contact does to you. You don't have to wait for danger to become dramatic before you protect yourself. Tanya looked down at her hands. This was one of those small moments that did not look dramatic from the outside, but inside Tanya, something shifted. Because Tanya had always believed protection had to be earned by visible harm. If there were no broken dishes, no bruises, no police report, then maybe she was exaggerating. Maybe she was dramatic. Maybe she was doing what Marcus said she did, turning every little thing into trauma. But Maya was telling her something different. She was telling her that emotional harm counted before it destroyed her. Do you want a plan? Maya asked. Tanya gave a nervous laugh. For what? For not being pulled back into the same conversation. The words landed gently. A plan sounded less frightening than a breakup. A plan had steps. Tanya could do steps. Maya took a blank sheet of printer paper and wrote 3 words at the top. Contact, support, proof. Then she turned the page toward Tanya. Contact, Maya said. You decide how he can reach you. Text only if that feels safest. No surprise visits. No private in-person talks unless you choose them and have support nearby. Tanya stared at the page. Support, Maya continued. You tell at least 2 safe people what's happening. Not the whole family. Safe people. Tanya thought of Barbara, then Maya. Maybe Carmen, but she was not sure yet. And proof? Tanya asked. Maya's voice stayed even. You keep records, messages, calls, anything where he threatens, shames, pressures, or twists things. Not because you're building a case in your head every second. Because when someone keeps rewriting reality, written truth helps you stop doubting yourself. Tanya swallowed. Marcus had rewritten reality for years. He said he was joking when she felt humiliated. He said he was helping when she felt smaller. He said he was patient when she felt punished. He said he was the good man she kept endangering with her emotions. Tanya touched the edge of the paper. What if I'm wrong? She whispered. Maya's face softened. Then a respectful man will respect a clear boundary while you sort through your feelings. Tanya looked at her. And if he doesn't? Maya did not answer immediately. She did not need to. Tanya already knew. That evening, Tanya went back to Aunt Barbara's house. This time, she did not sit in the car first. Barbara opened the door wearing a faded apron with flour on one sleeve. I was making biscuits, she said. Either you came at the right time or you have good instincts. Tanya smiled. I need to ask you something. Barbara stepped aside. Then come in before the biscuits get nosy. The warmth of the house met Tanya like breath. Soup simmered on the stove. The radio played low. A ceiling fan turned slowly above the living room where plants leaned toward the windows, alive and unashamed. Tanya had spent so many years seeing Barbara's house as empty. Now she saw space, not emptiness. Space to breathe, space to think, space to leave things where she wanted them, space to laugh loudly, space to wear yellow, space to be a full woman without an audience deciding whether she had enough proof. They sat at the kitchen table while the biscuits baked. Tanya took out Maya's paper and slid it toward Barbara. Contact, support, proof. Barbara read it quietly, then she looked up. Your friend has sense. She asked if I had safe people. Barbara's face softened. And you came here? Tanya nodded. The room went quiet. It was one thing to love someone privately. It was another to name them as safe. Barbara folded the paper and handed it back carefully, like it mattered. What do you need to ask? Tanya drew a breath. Leonard. Barbara's eyes stilled. Tanya continued, careful now. You don't have to tell me everything. but I need to understand what they turned into a joke.
Barbara looked toward the oven, though the biscuits were not done. For a long moment,
Tanya thought she had asked too much. Then Barbara said, "He did not start cruel."
No one ever did in the stories women struggled to explain. Barbara's voice was steady, but slower now.
He started attentive, walked me home from choir practice,
Brought my mother flowers, told my brothers he respected a strong family.
People loved him because he knew how to behave in front of people whose opinions mattered.
Tanya listened.
He liked my laugh at first, Barbara said. Then he said I laughed too loud. He liked that I had opinions. Then he said a wife should not challenge her husband in public. He liked that I worked. Then he said my paycheck made me act too independent. Tanya's stomach tightened. Marcus had different words, but the music was the same. Barbara continued.
He never said, I want to control you. Men like that rarely do. He said, I know what's best for us. He said, I'm trying to help you become a better woman. He said, nobody else will be this patient. Tanya looked down. Barbara saw it. Yes, she said softly. I know. The oven timer rang. Neither of them moved. Barbara's gaze returned to the past.
The week before the wedding, he told me he wanted my paycheck deposited into an account he managed. Said it was what responsible husbands did. I said no. He told me I was embarrassing him after all he had invested in me.
What did your family say? Barbara laughed once. No humor. They told me not to ruin a good thing over pride. Tanya closed her eyes.
Same sentence. Different decade. I left him, Barbara said.
And when I did, people did not call me brave. They called me difficult. Tanya opened her eyes. Barbara's face was calm now, but her hands were folded tightly.
For years, they told the story like I had chosen loneliness because I couldn't submit. They said I missed my chance. They said I was bitter. They never said he tried to take my money before he took my name.
Tanya's eyes filled. I'm sorry. Barbara reached across the table. Don't be sorry for what you didn't know. Be responsible for what you know now. Marcus changed tactics on Thursday. He stopped sending angry messages. Instead, he sent memories. A photo from their first trip to Asheville. Tanya laughing with sunglasses on top of her head. Marcus, remember when we were good? Then a picture of a townhouse listing. Marcus, I was serious about this. Then a screenshot of a ring. Not a real ring he had bought. A ring from a jewelry website, still surrounded by suggested items and sale banners.
Marcus, I had plans, Tanya. She stared at that message longer than she wanted to admit. I had plans.
Those 3 words knew exactly where to go. They went to the 35-year-old woman sitting at baby showers, smiling until her cheeks hurt. They went to the daughter watching her mother's eyes drift to her empty ring finger. They went to the little girl who had heard Aunt Barbara's name turned into a curse. They went to the part of Tanya that still wanted proof. Marcus called a minute later. Tanya did not answer. Her chest hurt. Not from love exactly, from withdrawal. That was the word Maya had used. When someone trains you to need their approval after they hurt you, Maya had said, not answering can feel like withdrawal. Tanya hated that because it was true. Her phone buzzed again.
Marcus, you really want to throw away a family?
Tanya put the phone down and pressed both hands to her chest. Family. He had not built one with her. He had postponed one, hinted at one, used the idea of one like a light at the end of a hallway. He kept moving farther back. Still, her body reacted as if the future itself were being taken away. The wedding that had never happened, the children they had discussed but never planned for, the house he mentioned whenever she got tired, the approval she imagined would finally settle over her like a blanket. Tanya walked to her bathroom mirror. Her eyes were wet. She looked at herself and spoke aloud, using the sentences from her note. I am allowed to stop chasing proof. Her voice shook. She said it again. I am allowed to stop chasing proof. Her phone buzzed behind her. Marcus, call me or I'm done. Tanya closed her eyes. There it was. The cliff. The place where she usually ran back. She opened the message and typed slowly. Tanya, I am not available for threats. I will only communicate by text for now. She pressed send before fear could edit courage into apology. The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then Marcus sent. Marcus, you sound stupid. Tanya stared at the words. No charm. No flowers. No future. No ring. No townhouse. Just contempt. And strangely, that helped. Because sometimes the mask slipping is the first mercy. Denise came to Tanya's apartment on Friday evening. This time, Tanya let her in. Not because Denise had the right to enter. Because Tanya wanted to practice truth with someone harder than Barbara and safer than Marcus. Her mother sat on the blue couch Marcus disliked, holding her purse with both hands. Tanya made tea because hospitality was muscle memory. Then she sat across from Denise instead of beside her. Denise looked around the apartment and noticed the yellow dress hanging over a chair. You always did like bright things, she said. Tanya waited. Denise lowered her eyes. Marcus called me. I figured. He's upset. I figured that too. Denise looked wounded by the calmness. Tanya, I'm trying to understand. 4 years is a long time. A man doesn't stay 4 years if he doesn't care. Tanya held her mug. A woman can stay 4 years because she's afraid. Does that mean she's loved well? Denise's mouth tightened. That's not fair. No, Tanya said softly. It isn't. The sentence landed between them. Denise looked toward the window. For the first time, Tanya noticed her mother's age. Not old exactly, just tired. A one who had lived long enough to confuse endurance with wisdom, because no one had given her better language. Denise said, I don't want you lonely. I know. You think I wanted to hurt you with Barbara? I think you were scared and handed me your fear. Denise flinched. Tanya almost apologized. Almost. Then she breathed through it. Denise whispered, My mother used to say it too. I know. She said Barbara embarrassed the family. Said she had a good man and got too headstrong. Tanya leaned forward. Did you ever ask Aunt Barbara what happened? Denise looked away. That was the answer. Tanya's voice stayed gentle, but it no longer bent. Mama, you taught me to fear a woman whose story you never heard. Denise's eyes filled. I thought I was protecting you. From what? From being alone. Tanya set her mug down. But you didn't teach me how to recognize when I was lonely with someone. Denise covered her mouth. The room went quiet, except for the air conditioner turning on. This was not the kind of accountability that ended in shouting. It was heavier than that. It was a mother finally seeing that love could still pass down harm when it refused to question fear. Tanya reached for a tissue box and placed it between them. Denise took one. This time, Tanya did not comfort her out of responsibility. She let her mother feel what she needed to feel. That too was new. Carmen called the next morning. Tanya almost did not answer. Carmen had been praised their whole lives as the opposite of Barbara. The successful woman, the chosen woman, the wife, the mother, the one who got the family applause without having to ask for it. But when Tanya answered, Carmen did not sound polished. She sounded tired. Can I come over? Tanya looked at the clock. Now? I'm already downstairs. Tanya walked to the window and saw Carmen's white SUV parked crooked near the curb. 5 minutes later, Carmen sat at Tanya's kitchen table with sunglasses pushed on top of her head and her phone turned face down. For once, she did not begin with advice. She began with confession. I laughed at things I shouldn't have laughed at. Tanya folded her hands. Carmen swallowed. When Uncle Ray said that about Aunt Barbara, I saw your face, and I still didn't say anything. Tanya said nothing. Carmen looked down. I'm sorry. The apology was plain. No explanation attached. That was why Tanya believed it. Carmen twisted her wedding ring slowly. You think everybody sees me as proof I did it right. Tanya gave a sad little smile. They do. I know. And I let them. Because it feels good to be the example instead of the warning. Tanya's expression softened. Carmen's eyes filled. But being the example is a cage, too. The sentence surprised Tanya. Carmen looked toward the living room, where sunlight fell across the blue couch. I love my kids. I love parts of my life. But there are days I feel like if I tell the truth about how hard it is, everybody will act like I'm ungrateful. So I perform happy. You perform easy. Aunt Barbara performed fine. Different stages, same family.
Tanya felt something loosen. The comparison between them had done damage for years. Carmen had been held above her like a measuring stick. But here, at Tanya's small kitchen table, she looked less like proof and more like a woman. Carmen said, "Marcus called my husband." Tanya tensed. "What did he say?" "That you're unstable. That Barbara is poisoning you against marriage. That you're going through some kind of midlife crisis." Tanya laughed softly despite the pain. "Midlife? I know, I'm 35. Apparently boundaries age women." For the first time in days, Tanya laughed for real. Carmen did too. Then Carmen grew serious. "He asked us to come to Mama's birthday dinner Sunday. He said he wants to make things right in front of everyone."
Tanya's stomach dropped. "Mama's birthday dinner? You didn't know?" Tanya shook her head. Carmen looked angry now, not loud, protective. "He's setting a stage." Tanya felt the old panic rise.
A stage meant witnesses. Witnesses meant pressure. Pressure meant Tanya's body would try to survive by complying. Carmen reached across the table. "You don't have to go." Tanya looked at her cousin's hand. That was the first time Carmen had said those words to her. "You don't have to." Not think about your age. Not don't be picky. Not Marcus is trying. You don't have to. Tanya let the words settle. Then she said, "Maybe I do." Carmen frowned. "Why?" Tanya's voice was quiet. "Because I'm tired of rooms where everyone talks about me like I'm not allowed to answer." Before Sunday, Tanya made a plan. Not a dramatic one. A safe one. That mattered. She asked Maya to call her 30 minutes after dinner started, and again 1 hour later. If Tanya did not answer or text back, Maya would call Aunt Barbara. She drove herself. She parked where she could leave without being blocked in. She wore the yellow dress. She saved Marcus's messages in a folder on her phone labeled Truth, because Maya had told her to name things in a way that reminded her why they mattered. And before she went inside Denise's house, she sat in the car and read her note aloud. "I am allowed to want safety. I am allowed to ask for respect. I am allowed to stop chasing proof. Being chosen is not the same as being loved. Being loved is not the same as being safe. Being alone is not the same as being unwanted." Her voice did not break this time. Inside, Denise's house was already loud with family. Balloons near the doorway, foil pans in the kitchen, children running through the hallway, Uncle Ray laughing too hard near the television, Carmen arranging candles on a cake, Aunt Barbara placing a bowl of greens on the counter, while one of the younger cousins asked her how she got them to taste so good. For once, Barbara was not sitting outside the circle. She was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, giving instructions. Tanya saw it and smiled. Then Marcus entered the dining room. He wore a navy blazer, too formal for Denise's birthday dinner, too polished for someone who had come only to apologize. He carried a small black box. Tanya's heart stopped so sharply she almost reached for the wall. "No, not here, not like this." Marcus saw her see it. His face softened into that public tenderness everyone trusted. "Tanya," he said. The room began to quiet. Denise turned from the stove. Carmen's eyes widened. Aunt Barbara would still. Marcus walked toward Tanya slowly, making sure everyone had time to notice. "I think we've had enough tension," he said. "Life is too short." Tanya's hands went cold. Uncle Ray grinned. "Well now." Marcus stood in the center of the room and looked around, gathering witnesses like kindling. "I love this woman," he said. A few people smiled. Tanya could barely breathe. "I know we've had our struggles. I know Tanya has doubts. And I know some people have been filling her head with fear." His eyes flicked toward Barbara. Barbara did not move. Marcus continued. "But I'm a man who believes in family. I believe in commitment. I believe a woman deserves a man who stays." The room warmed with approval before anyone examined the words. "A man who stays." Tanya felt the hook. Marcus opened the box. Inside was a ring, real this time. Small, bright, undeniable. Denise gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Marcus turned to Tanya.
So I'm asking you in front of the people who love you most, are you going to keep fighting me? Or are you going to let me make you my wife? The room fell silent, and Tanya understood. This was not a proposal. It was a trap, dressed like a dream. For one wild second, Tanya wanted to say yes, not because the proposal felt good, because the room wanted her to, because Denise was crying, because Uncle Ray looked satisfied, because Carmen's children had stopped running, because the old wound inside Tanya rose up like a starving thing and whispered, "Here, proof. Take it before it disappears." Tanya looked at the ring, then at Marcus, then at Aunt Barbara. Barbara's face was steady, but her eyes were wet. No pleading, no instruction, just witness.
Tanya remembered what Barbara had said about Leonard. They had already told everybody I was chosen. Chosen. How many women had been handed harm wrapped in public approval? How many had been pressured to say yes because everyone was watching? How many had confused applause with safety? Marcus took one step closer. Tanya? His voice was soft. His eyes were not. Tanya looked around the room, at her mother, who wanted happiness for her, but had mistaken a ring for evidence. At Uncle Ray, who had made jokes because cruelty was easier than accountability. At Carmen, who looked frightened for her now. At Barbara, who had lived long enough to see the same pattern return wearing a different man's face. Tanya drew one breath. Then another. Her voice came out quiet. No. The word landed like glass breaking. Marcus blinked. Denise covered her mouth. Uncle Ray said, "Now hold on." Tanya did not look at him. She looked at Marcus. "No," she said again, stronger. "I will not marry you." Marcus's expression froze in place, a smile still on his mouth, anger behind his eyes. "Tanya," Denise whispered. Marcus gave a small laugh for the room. "She's emotional." Tanya turned her head slowly. "No, I'm clear." The room went even quieter. Marcus closed the ring box. The sound was small and final. "I came here to offer you a future." Tanya nodded. "You came here to make it harder for me to say no." His face changed. Several people looked down, because truth spoken plainly makes witnesses out of people who wanted to remain audience. Marcus's voice lowered. "Don't embarrass yourself." Tanya felt the old fear, but she also felt the paper in her purse. Contact, support, proof. She felt Barbara's story. She felt Maya's question. Do you want Marcus, or do you want proof that you weren't rejected? And she knew the answer now. "I'm not embarrassed," Tanya said. "I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm scared, but I'm not embarrassed." Marcus stepped toward her. Barbara moved first, not dramatically. She simply crossed the room and stood beside Tanya. Then Carmen stood too. Then, after a long trembling moment, Denise stood on Tanya's other side. Marcus saw it. The room saw it. Tanya felt it. Not rescue. Witness. Support. There was a difference. Marcus laughed. It was not his public laugh. This one was sharp.
"Well, this is perfect."
The lonely aunt, the emotional cousin, and the mother who lets everybody else think for her. Denise flinched. Tanya turned toward him fully. "That's enough." Marcus looked at her like he did not recognize the woman in the yellow dress. Maybe he did not. Maybe he had never met the version of Tanya who could tremble and still not obey. "You're making a mistake," he said. "Maybe," Tanya answered, "but it will be mine." His eyes narrowed. "You think men are lining up for a 35-year-old woman with trust issues?" The room sucked in a breath. There he was. Not the man with flowers. Not the man with the ring. Not the man who carried chairs and charmed mothers. The man underneath. For a moment, Tanya felt grief so sharp she almost bent. Not because his words were new. Because now everyone else had heard them too. Denise whispered, "Marcus." He ignored her. "You think you're better than me now because your bitter aunt gave you some speech? Look around, Tanya. This is your future. Sitting in rooms with women who convince themselves being alone is strength because nobody wanted to deal with them." Aunt Barbara's chin lifted. Tanya reached for her hand. This time, Tanya did not defend herself first.
She defended the woman they had used as a warning. Aunt Barbara left a man who tried to control her money and her voice. The room went still. Barbara's fingers tightened around Tanya's. Tanya continued. She did not fail to get married. She chose not to marry someone who was already hurting her.
Denise stared at Barbara. Uncle Ray's face changed. Carmen looked down, tears in her eyes. Marcus rolled his eyes. Convenient story. Barbara spoke then. Her voice was calm. It is not convenient. That is why none of you wanted it. No one moved.
Barbara looked around the room, not angry, but done.
For 40 years, you used my life to scare girls into silence. You laughed about my house, my empty rooms, my missing husband. You never asked why I left him. You never asked what he said when no one was listening. You never asked why a woman might choose peace, even if peace came without applause. Denise began to cry. Barbara looked at her niece. You were young when Mama started that story. I know that. But you are not young now. The words were not cruel. That was why they hurt. Denise covered her face. Tanya stood between grief and truth, understanding for the first time that healing a family pattern did not mean everyone would be ready to heal with her. It only meant the lie had been interrupted. A family pattern begins to break when someone finally interrupts the lie. Marcus left before the cake was cut. He did not storm out. Men like Marcus understood image too well to slam doors in front of witnesses. He placed the ring box back in his jacket pocket, looked at Tanya as if she had ruined something sacred, and said, "You'll regret this." Tanya's body reacted to the threat. Her stomach clenched, her knees weakened, her mouth went dry, but she did not chase him. She did not apologize. She did not follow him to the porch and beg him not to leave angry. She let him walk out. When the front door closed, the house remained silent. Not peaceful, not yet, just silent. Then one of Carmen's children whispered, "Can we still have cake?" And strangely, that saved them. A laugh broke from Carmen first, then from Barbara, then Tanya. Not because anything was funny, because life, even after truth, still asked ordinary questions. Can we still have cake? Denise wiped her face and nodded. Yes, she said shakily. We can still have cake. They gathered in the dining room, but the air was different now. Uncle Ray did not make a toast. No one mentioned Marcus. No one mentioned Tanya's age. When Barbara carried plates to the table, Denise reached for her hand. Barbara paused. Denise's voice broke. I should have asked. Barbara looked at her for a long moment. Yes, she said. Denise cried harder. Barbara did not rush to comfort her, but she did not pull away. That was accountability too. Not instant forgiveness, not punishment. The truth, allowed to stand without being buried again.
Later, as Tanya helped wash dishes, Carmen came beside her. You okay? Tanya looked down at the soapy water.
No, Carmen nodded. Proud of you. Tanya's eyes filled. I wanted to say yes. Carmen did not look shocked. I know. I hated that I wanted to. That's not weakness, Carmen said. That's grief. Tanya let that word settle. Grief. Yes. She was grieving a future that had never been safe, but had still been imagined. She was grieving children she had pictured with a man who used them as leverage. She was grieving the version of her mother's face that would have lit up if Tanya had said yes. She was grieving the easy story. The one where the woman gets the ring and everyone claps and no one has to ask what the ring costs her. The backlash came the next morning. Marcus did not call first. He texted. Marcus, I hope you enjoyed your little show. Then, Marcus, you humiliated me in front of your family. Then, Marcus, don't contact me unless you're ready to apologize. Tanya read the messages from her kitchen table with Maya on speakerphone and Barbara sitting across from her. Her support plan had moved from paper into practice. Maya said, "Do you want to respond?" Tanya looked at Barbara. Barbara shook her head slightly. Not an order, a reminder. Tanya breathed. No. Good, Maya said. Save them. Tanya saved the messages. Then another came. Marcus, I'll drop your things later. Tanya frowned. What things? Barbara's eyes sharpened.
Maya said, "Do you have anything important at his place?" "A sweater, some books, a hairdryer." "Anything you need today?" "No." "Then don't let belongings become a reason for contact," Maya said. Tanya typed carefully. "Tanya, please leave anything of mine with Carmen, or mail it. Do not come to my apartment." Marcus replied, "Marcus, you don't get to give me orders." Tanya's hand shook. Barbara reached across the table and placed her palm flat beside Tanya's hand, not touching, near. Tanya typed, "Tanya, do not come to my apartment." She saved the thread. Then she put the phone down. The rest of the day, she moved through practical things. She asked the apartment office about updating her building access code. She told the front desk not to buzz Marcus in. She packed the few items Marcus had left at her place into a box and asked Carmen's husband to collect it from the lobby because she did not want a doorstep exchange. She changed the emergency contact at her doctor's office from Marcus to Denise. Then, after staring at the form for a long moment, she changed it again. From Denise to Barbara. When she told Barbara, her aunt pressed one hand to her heart. "You sure?"
Tanya nodded. "I'm sure." Barbara looked away for a second.
"Well," she said, voice thick, "I guess I better keep my phone charged." Tanya laughed. Then she cried. Both were true. The hardest part was not Marcus's anger. It was the quiet after. For years, Tanya had organized her evenings around him. His calls, his moods, his dinner preferences, his stories about work, his complaints about traffic, his sudden affection, his colder silences. Without him, her apartment felt larger. At first, that frightened her. The couch was too quiet, the kitchen too clean, the phone too still, the future too blank. One evening, Tanya stood in the grocery store holding a small carton of strawberries and started crying because Marcus did not like strawberries in the house. He said they spoiled too fast. He said they were a waste. He said she bought food like a single woman. Now she could buy them. That should have felt freeing. Instead, it made her realize how many tiny permissions she had surrendered. She bought the strawberries anyway. At home, she washed them, put them in a bowl, and ate them standing at the counter while tears slid down her face. They were sweet. That made her cry harder. Healing was strange that way. Some days, freedom felt like joy. Other days, it felt like proof of everything you had lost. Tanya started writing things down, not because every thought was profound, because she needed to hear herself again. "I like yellow. I like strawberries. I like quiet music while I cook. I do not like being teased about my body. I do not like being called emotional when I am hurt. I do not want to marry someone I am afraid to disappoint. I want children only if the home is kind. I want partnership, not proof. I am not running out of worth." She wrote that last sentence 3 times. I am not running out of worth. I am not running out of worth. I am not running out of worth. Then she taped it inside her closet door. The next morning, when she got dressed for work, the sentence was waiting. Not loud, not magical, just there, a witness in her own handwriting. 2 weeks after the birthday dinner, Denise invited Tanya and Barbara to lunch, not at the family house. At a small cafe with bright windows and linen napkins. Neutral ground. Denise arrived early. That alone told Tanya something had shifted. Her mother had dressed carefully, but her face looked unguarded in a way Tanya rarely saw. Barbara sat beside Tanya, not across from her. Denise noticed. Her eyes filled, but she did not comment. When the server left with their orders, Denise folded her hands on the table. "I talked to Aunt Ruth," she said. Barbara's expression changed slightly. Aunt Ruth was the oldest living Bellamy woman, the keeper of family stories. Also, Tanya suspected, the keeper of family edits. Denise continued. She remembered Leonard. Barbara looked down. Denise's voice trembled. She said everybody knew he had a temper, but they thought marriage would settle him. Tanya felt anger move through her. Quiet, hot, clean. Denise looked at Barbara. "I am so sorry." Barbara did not answer quickly. This apology was not like Carmen's. This one carried decades. Denise continued, tears spilling now. "I repeated what Mama said. I repeated it to Tanya. I repeated it at tables. I let Ray joke. I laughed sometimes because everybody else did. and I told myself I was warning Tanya because I loved her. She took a shaking breath. But I was teaching her to be afraid of the wrong thing. Barbara's eyes shone. Denise looked at Tanya then. I was so afraid you would be alone that I did not ask if you were safe. Tanya's throat tightened. Those were the words she had needed. Not perfect, not enough to erase everything, but true. Tanya reached across the table. Denise took her hand. I love you, Denise whispered. I know, Tanya said. Then, after a pause, she added, I need love to stop sounding like panic. Denise closed her eyes. I'm learning. Barbara gave a soft snort. You better learn faster. We're not getting younger. Tanya laughed. Denise laughed through tears. And there in a cafe full of strangers, 3 women sat with the truth between them, not fixed, but no longer buried. Marcus tried one final time. Not with flowers, not with rings, not with family, with contempt. Tanya was leaving work when she saw him standing near the parking lot entrance. Her body reacted before her mind did. Heart racing, hands cold, eyes searching for exits. Then she remembered. Plan. She did not walk toward him. She stepped back into the building lobby and called Maya, who was still upstairs. Marcus is outside. Maya's voice changed immediately. Stay where you are. I'm coming down. Tanya watched through the glass as Marcus saw her refuse to come out. His face tightened. He lifted his phone. A text appeared. Marcus, really? You need backup now? Tanya did not answer. Maya arrived within a minute, calm but alert. The office security guard, Mr. Alvarez, noticed them and came closer without making a scene. Marcus saw the shift. Now there were witnesses. Not family witnesses he could charm. Workplace witnesses with no investment in the story that Marcus was a good man. Tanya stepped outside only when Maya and Mr. Alvarez were beside her. Marcus smiled. You've got to be kidding me. Tanya kept her voice steady. You cannot come to my job. I came to talk. I told you not to contact me in person. He looked at Maya. This is between me and my woman. Tanya felt the phrase hit her. My woman. Not my partner, not Tanya. My woman, a claim disguised as intimacy. She looked him directly in the eyes. I am not your woman. His jaw tightened. You're going to die alone with that attitude. There it was, the curse, the final version of the old warning. Tanya heard it, and something unexpected happened. It did not enter her the way it used to. It reached for the wound and found scar tissue forming. Tanya breathed in. Then she said, I would rather live alone than disappear beside you. Marcus stared. Maya did not speak. Mr. Alvarez stood quietly near the door. Tanya continued, You used my age, my family, my body, my hope for children, and my fear of being unwanted to keep me apologizing. That is not love. That is control. Marcus looked around, aware now that others could hear. His voice dropped. You're making me look bad. Tanya felt a sad, tired clarity move through her. No, Marcus, I stopped helping you look good. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Marcus laughed under his breath, turned, and walked away. This time, Tanya watched until he reached his car. Not because she wanted him back. Because she wanted her body to learn he could leave and she could survive it. Later, Aunt Barbara's house looked different from the street. Not because the house had changed, because the story around it had. Tanya had painted the shutters with Barbara one Saturday morning. Not blue this time. A soft green Barbara had chosen from a row of paint cards at the hardware store. Green means I'm still growing, Barbara said. You're 68, Tanya teased. And? Tanya laughed. Inside, Denise was helping Carmen arrange old photos across the dining table. They were building something Barbara had resisted at first, then secretly loved. A memory wall. Not of what Barbara lacked, of what she had lived. Choir concerts, community awards, friends, travel, work anniversaries. A younger Barbara in a red dress. Barbara beside 2 women at Niagara Falls. Barbara holding a certificate from a literacy program where she had taught adults to read for 17 years. Tanya picked up one photo she had never seen before. Barbara in her 30s, standing in front of a small classroom chalkboard, one hand on her hip, smiling like someone with a full life ahead of her because she had already saved it once.
Tanya looked at her aunt across the room. You really taught all those years? Barbara shrugged. People needed reading. I knew how. Denise wiped her eyes. Barbara pointed at her. Don't start crying on my pictures. Carmen laughed. The family was not magically healed. Uncle Ray still had not apologized properly. Some cousins still whispered.
A few relatives thought Tanya had overreacted and Marcus had dodged a difficult woman. There were people who preferred the old story because the old story asked nothing of them. But the center had shifted. Denise no longer allowed Aunt Barbara jokes at her table. Carmen corrected people gently but firmly when they called Tanya picky. And Tanya no longer measured her healing by whether everyone understood it. That had been one of the hardest lessons. Survivors often want the whole room to finally see what happened. Sometimes some people do. Sometimes they do not. But healing cannot wait for unanimous agreement from people who benefited from your silence. Tanya had started therapy through a women's support center Maya recommended. She had joined a financial planning class. She had gone to a movie alone and enjoyed it. She had sat on her balcony in the morning with strawberries and coffee. She had bought 2 more yellow things, a scarf and a ceramic bowl. Small rebellions. Small returns. One evening, while helping Barbara hang the last photo, Tanya noticed a blank space on the wall. What goes there? Barbara smiled. That one is for us. For us? Barbara handed Carmen her phone. Then she stood beside Tanya, pulled Denise in on one side, Carmen on the other, and lifted her chin. Carmen took the picture. 4 Bellamy women, not examples, not warnings. Women, still learning, still healing, still here. On Tanya's 36th birthday, she woke up alone. No Marcus, no proposal. No breakfast in bed from a man performing tenderness after weeks of harm. No anxious checking of her phone to see what mood would define the day. Just sunlight, quiet, her own apartment. The blue couch still there, the yellow dress hanging in her closet, a bowl of strawberries in the refrigerator. For a moment, sadness visited. Not the old panic, just sadness. The honest kind. Tanya let it sit beside her without turning it into proof that she had failed. Then she got up, made coffee, and opened the note app on her phone. The first note she had written months earlier was still there. I am allowed to want safety. I am allowed to ask for respect. I am allowed to stop chasing proof. Being chosen is not the same as being loved. Being loved is not the same as being safe. Being alone is not the same as being unwanted. She read it once. Then she added, I am allowed to build a life that does not need to impress the people who scared me. That afternoon, Tanya hosted lunch at her apartment. Barbara came first, carrying pound cake. Denise came next, carrying flowers with the price sticker removed. Carmen arrived with her children and a card they have drawn with too many hearts on the front. Maya came last, holding a gift bag and wearing the look of someone who had known Tanya would make it here before Tanya did. They ate on paper plates because Tanya did not feel like washing dishes. They laughed. They talked. They let the children spill juice without turning it into a moral lesson. At one point, Denise looked around Tanya's apartment and said, It feels peaceful in here. Tanya looked at the blue couch, the yellow bowl, the plants Barbara had given her, the photos on the shelf. The small life she had once feared would look like failure if no man stood in the middle of it. It does, she said, and she meant it. Later, after everyone left, Tanya stood on her balcony as evening settled over Charlotte. The city lights flickered on one by one. She thought of the girl she had been, hearing Aunt Barbara's name whispered like a curse. She thought of the woman she had become, accepting crumbs because crumbs looked better than being called unwanted. And she thought of Barbara, who had not been a warning after all. Barbara had been evidence. Evidence that a woman could be misunderstood and still be whole. Evidence that survival did not always look impressive from the outside. Evidence that peace was worth more than approval. Tanya rested her hands on the balcony rail and whispered into the evening air, I am not afraid of becoming her anymore. Then she smiled, because she understood the truth now.
She was not becoming Aunt Barbara. She was becoming herself. If Tanya's story touched something in you, pause before you judge the part of yourself that stayed. Sometimes women stay because they are afraid of being alone, afraid of disappointing family, afraid of aging without proof, afraid of being compared to the woman everyone mocked, afraid that leaving means confirming every cruel thing someone once said. But fear is not failure. Fear is information. And when someone uses your fear to control your choices, that is a pattern worth naming. A relationship is not safe just because it gives you status. A proposal is not healing if it is used to silence you. A family's approval is not protection if it teaches you to tolerate harm. And being chosen is not the same as being cherished. Maybe there's an Aunt Barbara in your family too. Maybe her name was used as a warning. Maybe her life was summarized unfairly. Maybe people turned her pain into a joke because the truth would have required accountability. Or maybe you have been afraid of becoming someone your family never understood. But listen carefully. The life they taught you to fear may not be the danger. A danger may be staying where your spirit has to disappear in order to be accepted. You are allowed to want love that does not manage you. You are allowed to want family without surrendering your voice. You are allowed to choose peace even when people misunderstand the cost. And you are allowed to stop chasing proof that you are worthy. You already are. Tanya's story is fictional. The pattern is real. If you saw yourself or someone you care about in this story, don't stay quiet. Tell someone safe. Write down what is happening. Notice the pattern. Let truth have witnesses. And if Velvet Justice Chronicles gives you language for what you have survived, subscribe before you leave. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that being alone is not the same as being unwanted. And come back for more stories of women recognizing the pattern, choosing safety, and rebuilding with dignity. Her story is fictional. The pattern is real.